Hey everybody, my name is Scary Spikes and welcome to another Star Citizen video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the brand new consolidated Outland HoverQuad and of course, the most inexpensive LTI token. More on that in just a little bit, but before we get started, a very big thank you to Vent for continuing to support me on Twitch at a tier 3 subscription, being a VIP Gold contributor here. So thank you, Vent, so very much for your continued support. And of course, I do need to thank all of you, my YouTube and Twitch audience, and all of our Discord community members as well for all of the love and patience that you have shown me during these last several weeks where I've been out of action as a result of my PC being up for repair and me learning a little bit about carpentry. More on that another time. And of course, putting together a brand new 2PC production studio for you for video production and streaming as well, which is just about complete. So we're going to start making videos as usual and streaming on Twitch Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Feel free to come on over and join us, as well as our wonderful Discord community. Links can be found down in the description below. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's start this one off with a bang and get right into this video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's go ahead and step off of our Nomad here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the brand new HoverQuad. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, there is also a patch that accompanies this that arrived just a little bit before, which was part of the 3.16 patch, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I am wrong in the comments down below. But essentially, there's been a rework to Gravlev vehicles in general, so I'm very excited to see how this works. And of course, we do also have our CO Nomad here to see how it will interface with the quad, as it's pretty much how it's advertised. So let's go ahead and grab the quad first. Of course, if you want to do that, you'll need to head over to one of these blue Platinum Bay areas here on any of the HDMS stations available throughout Stanton, and simply go ahead and requisition your ground vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we'll take a tour of it as well as have a look at the specs over on Urkel.games, followed by my recommendations towards the end of the video. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, with true SSP gaming fashion here, we're of course going to take a look at the exterior of the vehicle first, followed by, well, not much of an interior tour, but we can take a look at what kind of displays and other things, bells and whistles come with this craft. And then, of course, we'll be taking a look at Urkel to see if there's any way that we can upgrade this, although I don't imagine that that will be the case, just because smaller vehicles typically don't really have much upgrade options available to them at the moment. For my first impressions, and these are my first impressions, it's actually the first time that I'm ever looking at the vehicle right here with you. I gotta say, it looks really nice. I mean, it definitely looks like a quad with Gravlev technology built in. It actually looks like a very aggressively styled super street motorcycle in outer space, which is really awesome. I honestly didn't think I was going to like this quite as much as when I just laid eyes on it for the first time, which is just now. So let's go ahead and have a seat on it. We do see that we have some really beautiful details here. There's a number of different vents available here, which I assume are going to be for all of the different thrusters, and what looks like to be some kind of like ski-shaped either Gravlev sort of shoes, or, you know, landing shoes or landing gear. And we see that we have some integrated ones here as well into the front and into the rear, which is really cool. Very similar to that of the actual CO Nomad there, as you can see, with the Nomad parked just a few meters away. Now, it does look like we do have a little boot here. Let's see if we open this up. Okay, that's pretty cool. So that's actually the power plant, which is really interesting. It would be kind of nice to have a little bit of a trunk there instead of the power plant, but I kind of understand that. And it is really nice in a new vehicle to have an exterior access to, you know, the most important things that you would want to upgrade. Now, on the onset here, just having a look, it does look like there is only capacity for one person to sit here. It does like a relatively comfortable seat here. It does look like a very comfortable seat. We do have some storage over here, so this is pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and see. Oh my goodness, that's actually really cool. So we do have some onboard storage here, and this is animated as well, which is really nice. Let's continue around the other side of the vehicle here. Looks like we have some additional vents around the front. Man, I really love this aggressive styling. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I've never really been a huge fan of Consolidated Outland until the Nomad came out, and now I think this has literally sold me on Consolidated Outland. Now, I do also, with the organization, of course, own a Pioneer, which I was lucky enough to get during the last IAE, but, you know, of course, this is not something that's available just yet. We do have another storage opening over here, which is really cool. So I don't know if this is a consolidated storage, if you know what I mean there, excuse the pun, or if this is like a separate little storage locker to the one accessible on the other side. But other than that, it doesn't seem like we have anything else here. If we duck a little bit down, we can see some exhausts here as well, and of course the little landing skis as they were. Very, very nice paint scheme here. There are some paints available on the RSI website as well, which honestly I never recommend, just because this is all going to be available in the game here, guys. So I know it's just $5, $6, or $7 or something like that. I don't really know actually exactly how much they cost, but in any case, this is all going to be in the game, right? So if you're going to be buying paints nonstop, it's eventually going to add up, and you could potentially end up getting yourself something like a Nomad instead of, you know, a handful of paints. So I think that's definitely a better option if you are going to be spending money, to be spending that money on a vehicle. Let's go ahead and hop on, though, and see what it's like to sit on this bad boy. So, just getting into the storage here by accident. And there we go. Grip one of the handles here and get on board. All right, very nice. Let's have a little exterior view here. And man, this just looks absolutely awesome. I love the dimensions of this thing. It looks really, really cool, especially with the player sitting on it. I was afraid that the player sitting on it was going to make it look very small and insignificant, but really, it just looks really good. I think it's just the right size, and the paint is honestly really beautiful out of the factory. So let's go ahead and power up the systems and see what happens. First, we'll turn on the regular power. Ah, man. All right, so we've got a few things to look at here. It looks like we have the SLFD panel. I'm not really quite sure what that is. Seems like maybe something to do with the levitation system, or perhaps even maybe battery power or something like that. I'm not sure how this is exactly driven. We do have a little option down here for a couple of little contextual buttons, which is pretty cool. So we have hover there, which is kind of nice. We have our power and our engine switches down here. Again, I really wish they got rid of these little context menus, because it just makes it look kind of ugly, honestly, on an otherwise absolutely gorgeous looking vessel. And we have a few other sort of toggle switches here. CTRM, SNSR, I'm guessing that's for your sensors, your battery, your headlights, and then of course this, I'm not really quite sure what that is, but it's an on and off switch. CTRM, if you know what that is, feel free to let me know down in the comments. Now, very much similar to what other CO vessels offer, we do have sort of these sort of consolidated, pardon the pun again, screens here. And we can see that we have what looks to be the power screen down here on the bottom and our capacitor screen here at the top, which presumably you should be able to change with the menu. There we go. So you can change that one, it seems. Go ahead and change that to weapons just to see how it works. And then you've got the other screen here. So even though it's exactly the same screen, you can change what each of those two different displays on the same screen end up showing you. Now, we do have a little radar over here, and this is interesting. I'm not really quite sure what these arrows do here, so if you have any idea, please do let me know. I'm thinking this is probably going to change the scan resolution of the distance in the radar, but it doesn't seem to be working very well. And then we have an integrated annunciator panel here on the dash. Overall, I think this looks really, really nice. It looks like a very tight package. I'm going to put this thing on the CO Nomad to see how it fits, and we're going to take it out on the rough terrain of Ariel to see how it rides, which is the most important thing. I'm also going to try to test it by sending it out the back of this ship here, the CO Nomad, while we are up in atmosphere, and just see how long it takes. I don't imagine it's going to take too long to get to the surface, but then again, we are on Ariel, which has a bit of a diminished gravity as compared to planets like Crusader or Hurston, for example. So let's go ahead and pack this thing up on the Nomad, and then we'll take it out to a little bit more of a forgiving terrain and see how it rides. We're doing a little bit of low flying here at a slower speed over Ariel, trying to find some better terrain to really test this thing out, but it seems to be staying on the gravity well here on the CO Nomad relatively well. Seems to be sticking on the back without moving around too much, and of course we can also try a few maneuvers, and that seems to be fine. So definitely a good fit between the HoverQuad and the Nomad. So if you happen to have a Nomad already, it definitely looks really nice together. I don't imagine you'll be able to fit two in there. If you do, they're probably not going to be doing too well. They'll probably bounce around quite a bit, but at least you can probably move it around just a little bit in there and still have a little bit of space for a few other belongings or things. So we found a little bit of a spot. Unfortunately, it's not all that fantastic in terms of smoothness, but we are here on beautiful Ariel. The sun is shining. and we are going to have a little bit of fun and see how this thing handles. We'll drive around for a little bit, and I'll be able to give you guys my first impressions on the handling of this thing, and then of course we'll hop into Urkel.games very quickly later on to see how it goes. So let's go for a little bit of a ride. Alrighty, so just taking this thing out for a little spin here. I've had a chance to mess around with it a little bit. Obviously, you want to be on as high of a ride height in a very rocky terrain like here on Ariel as you can possibly be, because, of course, there is a lot of change in altitude, and the gravity Gravlev generators here doing a wonderful job in protecting me from near certain death there. Obviously, you do want to be careful not to go too fast, and of course, you want to be on the lookout for, big rocks, and of course, steep embankments as well. You don't want to be dropping off of them with too much force, because there's only so much pushback that the Gravlev generators will be able to do. So if you're falling from too much of a height, you do have to be very, very careful in that you remain in control, and then of course also that you don't run into anything. Although the collision avoidance on this thing seems to be relatively well, especially on the higher setting. We can get to a little bit of a stop here. I can show you guys what I mean about the settings. There seems to be a little bit of a flat area over here, so let's kind of hang out over here for a second. Now, if you are in an area where it's a little bit more flat and not so many rocks as here on Ariel, you can hold your control key and that'll bring you nice and low to the ground. That'll give you much of the same feeling as low flying your aircraft really low to the ground in between canyons and stuff like that. I imagine that Daymar would be a lot of fun, so I'm going to be doing a little bit more experimentation. And then, of course, if you're in an area where there's quite a few more rocks, you can raise yourself up using the spacebar. Now, what's nice to note is that you do have a choice independently anywhere within there. So it's not just low or high. You do have the opportunity to adjust this on the fly as you go as well, which is quite nice, again, with the spacebar for up and the control key for down. So that's really nice to have. Again, I don't know if I want to test the very, very limited skill that I have with the HoverQuad here, of course, or any other Gravlev vehicle on Ariel, at least, because I have already exploded a few times, giggity. But honestly, I'm very, very, very pleasantly surprised with how this thing is handling. The collision avoidance on the front of it is really good in the sense that it doesn't just push up from the bottom. It tends to do have a little bit of rejection on the front as well, so that if you're moving towards an obstacle, for example, like this rock over here, if we move towards this rock, you'll notice that we are definitely hovering below where the top surface of the rock is, but if we move towards it, it tends to anticipate that rock and move us up accordingly, which is really quite nice. Of course, again, you don't want to be testing the limits of the system in a place like this, because of course you might end up running into some geometry and causing a gigantic explosion. But of course, it's honestly really, really good for the first implementation. I'm looking forward to seeing if this thing gets any updates, and do let me know what your experiences with the HoverQuad have been in Star Citizen so far. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and switch over to the desktop here, and there you go. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. They're getting caught on the terrain. We're going to head over to Urkel.games really quickly and see if there is anything upgradable in here. Of course, I'll give you my opinions towards the end. I'm going to go ahead and stop now before I kill myself, but let's just go ahead and see what we can see on Urkel. Looks like I am dying of heat exhaustion here already anyway, so let's switch over to Urkel.games and we'll have a chat about it, and then we'll conclude with my thoughts and suggestions. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're here on Urkel.games, and first of all, just want to address a question that a lot of you have had for me in the comments, and that is, why aren't the links working anymore? And I think it's because Urkel recently changed the layout of their site. As you can see, it's completely different, a slightly different green accent colorway here, and of course, a different way for the information to be displayed, which is actually better in the sense that if you know what you're looking for, you can actually search for it, and it makes things quite a bit faster. Of course, there were a couple of things that I did enjoy about the previous Urkel, but that might be the reason why it's not working. So to address that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start consolidating all of my builds into a channel on Discord. So make sure to follow the link down below. Join us at discord.gg/SSB Gaming. And of course, we'll have a channel there dedicated just to my Urkel.games fits. That's a place where I'm going to be able to consolidate everything and keep everything in one place for all of you and for your convenience. So we'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks. We'll let you guys know in a post and on Discord when that's complete. Of course, it's going to take a little bit of time because I've had quite a number of videos over the last year in place. So, updating everything will take a little bit of time. But once we've got everything updated, it should be good to go. And then it'll be a lot easier to keep things up to date rather than just doing the entire workload all at once, which is kind of what I'm doing at this point. But anyway, I digress. So we're here on the HoverQuad here at Oracle.Games, and as I've mentioned, there's honestly not a whole lot of stuff here to do. Unfortunately, for size 0, there's not a whole lot of choice. We are going to be looking at potentially changing out the power plant, and for that, I would recommend the Defiant here. Again, it's probably not going to make enough of a difference to warrant spending any money, but if you do spend money, it's probably not going to be more than a couple of thousand UEC, or maybe 10 or 20,000 UEC or something like that. I'm not 100% sure how much these cost. If you add them to your cart, it'll tell you exactly how much it is and where you can get yours. Now, the coolers, again, not going to be a huge difference here, especially since they're all providing about the same amount of cooling anyway. Hopefully, this is something that'll be balanced in the future, and hopefully, we will have some performance options for size 0 in order to be able to fit to vehicles such as the HoverQuad, and of course, some of the other smaller ground vehicles like the Spartan, the Nova, the Cyclones, and so on. Now, when it comes to paints, again, I'm not going to recommend that you guys get any of these. They do look, they do look pretty cool, some of them. But again, I would not recommend you spending money on them because eventually that will add up, and that money, in my opinion, is better spent on ships if you really want to do that. And of course, the majority of this, if not all of it, is going to be coming into the game purchasable with UEC at some point in the future. So there's really no point just for eye candy to be spending your real world hard-earned dollars. So I would not recommend doing that. But of course, that is your prerogative. Certainly up to you. Now, everything else, there's not too much going on here, so we're going to go ahead and leave it at that. What I did want to show you guys, though, is that this is a wonderful little LTI token. For those of you guys who don't know what an LTI token is, I do touch on it when we talk about the 5 different tips for your RSI account. There's a video that I made not too long ago. I'll make sure to link that in the top right-hand corner of the screen for you, so you can get a good look at that. And it's basically just explaining certain things like, how pledges work and how reclaiming pledges and rebuying pledges works, how upgrading works, and all those kinds of things. So if you're relatively new to Star Citizen, you might find a little bit of use in that. And of course, if you have any ideas on future videos or things that you'd like to see, please do let me know in the comment section down below. Now, as you can see here, we're having a look at the quads themselves. You can pick up the quad for $30 US just by itself. Unfortunately, this kind of sucks because it only gives you 6 months insurance, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, there you go, 6 months insurance there. And honestly, really not worth it, considering for $5 less, if you're going to be picking this up anyway, with new money, mind you, because it is a war bond purchase, you are going to be getting lifetime insurance, as is the custom with the majority of vehicles that are released straight to flyable by CIG. So we knew this was kind of coming. There was some teasers and stuff like that during Luminalia of last year. But in any case, lifetime insurance, honestly, guys, I picked up 4 of these just because it's a really cheap LTI token. Again, if you don't know what an LTI token is, watch that video I mentioned earlier. It'll explain everything. If you still have questions, come by our Discord and hang out. We are now going to be streaming again back to our regular schedule, Wednesdays and Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. Make sure to come over and join me for some fun there. And guys, thank you again so very much for watching. I am so grateful and humbled to have such a wonderful audience such as you. I appreciate all of your patience during the downtime, and I'm really looking forward to, and I'm very pumped to continue to make content for you going forward into 2022. So thank you guys so very much again. I love you so very much, and I hope to see you in the game, and of course in Discord, and of course in the next video.